Now I would like to cover Oasis Submission to the state. Healthcare Assistant doesn't necessarily send the file for you. That is done either through Ivan's Remote Access or AT&T Global Dialer, along with a letter from CMS that would explain the procedure of submitting the Oasis to the state. In an earlier lesson, we went over briefly how to set up the electronic receiver setup for Oasis, so I won't necessarily go into detail about that. But before you can successfully submit Oasis to the state, you would need to make sure that this is set up. And now I'd like to go over the creation of the Oasis submission file for you within the Healthcare Assistant software. We start off by clicking on Oasis and Assessments and going down to Oasis Electronic Submission. And as I mentioned earlier in the lesson, the Oasis status list actually helps. We start off here by processing locked Oasis records. That's why the report becomes a very important pre-submission tool. The program will only process any locked Oasis records, and before doing that, they must first need to be in a validated state. Here is where you filter out the payer types, or question M-code 150. Here you can select Medicare, Medicaid, non-Medicare, Medicaid, or all. The file name will have M for Medicare, Medicaid, and the day's date that you're generating the file. You can filter out the Oasis even more so by putting in a date completed between. Any locked Oasis with a Moon 90 date or M-code 90 date in between the two dates you specify will show up when you click on Process. If you're required to submit a test file to the state, simply click on Test before clicking on Process. If you notice, the file extension changed from a .000 to a .tst for test. Once everything is satisfactory, click on Process. The Oasis submission list then pops up on your screen. What you see here is all the patients with their SOC date, the RFA or reason for assessment type, the date the Oasis was completed or the M-code 90 date, the lock date, and also the submission version or Oasis version. You can choose to uncheck all or check all to make sure every Oasis is included. Or you can check each Oasis individually. Click on Process once you're finished. It will show you the number of Oasis that are processed down here on the progress bar. And if you notice, the file moves over to the right side of the screen. Right here is where the file is processed in your computer. It's in your C drive, under Program Files, HCS, Has4Win, and Subfiles. The next step is to highlight the file and click on Summary. You can either save this or print it out and use it to cross-reference with something that's called your Oasis Initial Validation Report, just to make sure that you sent the correct file. After you printed or saved the summary, you can click on Export. Down here is where your export directory is located. This lets you know that the file is going to get sent to this location after you click on Export. Once you've clicked on Export, the program will let you know that the file was successfully exported to the C Oasis location, or whatever your export directory location is, and it renamed the file to oasissub.000. As I mentioned earlier, the Healthcare Assistant doesn't send the file to the state, but creates the Oasis submission file for you. In regards to training for Oasis submission, please contact your State Oasis Automation Coordinator.